So today was a day where you could have went from rags to riches using the gap close reversal to fill the gap below strategy. As you know, my number one trading strategy heading into 2022. With that being said, let me show you an example in the beauty of SPX. This is the S&P 500 index. We're going to be discussing some of the differences between SPX and trading the SPY options. So in terms of SPX, they actually had contracts that expired today. The closest expiration on the SPY was tomorrow, June 10th. So that's just one difference right there, right? Different strikes, different expirations, right? But with that being said, take a look at this put option, the 4,050 out of money strike that later on became deep in the money as the S&P 500 closed very weak at the lows. Let's just say you were to use the gap close reversal strategy. This is 2 days in a row. And I got to give a big shout out to G-Roar within the chat, because not only did he nail the big move yesterday where he bought puts at the gap close reversal price at the previous closing price, and he diamond handed them throughout the day, he did it again today. So big shout out to him. Hats off to him, man. He's made over tens of millions just this week. It's absolutely insane what he's doing within the chat room. But with that being said, guys, as you can see, SPY had a gap down. It filled the gap, it reacted as a resistance, it shot back up, formed lower highs, and it sold off hard and it closed weak at the lows. It did the same exact thing today. SPY gap down, S&P 500 gaps down, it fills the gap, it forms the lower highs, and then it sells off and it closes weak at the lows. This was a type of trading opportunity with this strategy where you could have went from rags to riches. What is it that I'm talking about? This right here, this is going to be the $4,050 out of money strike, right? And you don't even have to take a big position size. So moving forward, I'm going to show you what you can do with the SPX, and I'm going to explain to you why moving forward I'm going to be interested and laser focused on not only mastering the SPY, but also mastering SPX. You want to focus on mastering the both. But I just want to show you this to inspire you. So look at this. You know, S&P 500, SPX, these contracts, these put options that were out of the money, the $4,050 strike, they were trading in the 20-cent range, $20 a contract. That was at 1 p.m. If you were to hold for just 3 hours, they shot up to $32. That's turning $20 into $3,200. So imagine if you bought 30 contracts, a $600 investment. If you were to hold that till close, you would have turned $600 into almost $100,000. This was the type of trading situation where you could have went from rags to riches in a couple of hours, and it is possible. And I'm going to explain to you how, right? So with that being said, I want to point out some differences between SPX and SPY. So in terms of SPX, the contracts are 10 times higher than the price of SPY. So it's much more ideal for bigger accounts. Another thing I want to bring awareness in terms of the SPY, in terms of the SPX, there is tax advantages to trading SPX. If you day trade SPX, there is tax advantages. I'm not going to be discussing that in this video. That's another lesson. But there is tax advantages. There is tax benefits if you make money trading SPX versus the SPY, where there isn't. Another thing in terms of SPX is it has big moves. So let's take a look at SPY. SPY hit the previous closing price just like SPX and it sold off, right? So in terms of how many points did SPY drop? SPY dropped 10 points from the previous closing price. How many points did SPX drop? It dropped 100 points, basically 98 points from the highs, literally over 100 points, over 103 points from the highs, right? So the difference is it dropped over 100 points and SPY only dropped 10 points. It's like Tesla on crack, basically. You know, if you're having a big 100-point move, the contracts are going to print exponentially, right? And another thing to point out is it has different expirations and different strikes. The SPY's closest expiration was on June 10th. The SPX closest expiration was today. The same day expirations are going to be, cheaper potentially and a lot more lucrative, bigger percentage returns, but also bigger percentage losses. So you look to scale back in position size, right? So that's one difference right there. So in terms of like, when would you want to trade SPX, right? So obviously if you have a big account, this is something you really want to master. You want to focus more on SPX versus the SPY if you have a larger account. You'll save money in commissions. There's tax benefits. It has much bigger moves. It's more ideal for bigger accounts. Now, if you have a small account, when would be the right time to focus on SPX? Well, one advice I can give you is using the gap close reversal strategy on same day expirations. So if you're going to trade the SPX, these contracts are super expensive. Now, when do these contracts become cheap? They become a lot cheaper on the same day expiration. That's the first step. Now, what's the second step? When do they become super cheap on the same day expiration? They become super cheap on the same day expiration if you can get a huge move in your favor, if you can get a decent move, a big move in your favor in terms of when? Towards the middle to the end of the day. Why towards the middle or the end of the day? Because there's this thing called theta decay, right? The contracts, the same day expirations are going to decay like crazy and become extremely cheap. They're going to be worth a lot less, even if it's the same price, right? So what I'm telling you is the same day expiration is going to be worth a lot less right here at 1 p.m. versus right here at market open, even if it's the same price. It's going to be worth a lot less. So what I'm telling you is if you have a smaller account and if you focus on SPX, same day expirations on the middle of the day, or even better towards power hour, the contracts are going to be super cheap. And with that being said, if you can get a big move like today where the contracts are cheap towards the middle or towards the middle of the day or towards power hour, they are going to print like substantially. And the contracts are so cheap and it could have such a big move where the odds are in your favor. Now, obviously, in terms of a day like today, these are like once in a lifetime opportunities. But if you've been studying the volatility of the market, there has been 1 to 2 opportunities just like today or yesterday every single week. There's been 1 to 2 opportunities. So I want you to start thinking about this and I want you to start understanding that, if you size in properly, right? And you play these lottos in a smart way, you're getting in at the best prices using the gap close reversal strategy. This can be a highly profitable strategy. It really could. This is the type of strategy where the win rate doesn't matter. If you lose big percentage-wise in the contracts, that doesn't matter. You're obviously not scaling in heavily into these, same-day expirations, right? But if you just focus on getting at the best entries towards the right times with a small account, they could print substantially. Now, obviously, if you have a larger account, you can focus more on SPX towards a market open. You could do that as well. But for small accounts, my recommendation in terms of one way to trade the SPX is focus on same day expirations and focus on trading it towards the middle of day or towards the end of the day. So if you see SPX have a gap down and it fills the gap like it did for the past 2 days in the morning, and then it reacts as a resistance, it has a reversal, and then you see it pop back up or it's forming lower highs in the middle of the day or towards power hour, in the middle of the day or towards power hour, I would play the puts and ride it back down substantially, This information that I just shared with you, this is like game-changing information in terms of how you can potentially grow a small account with trading on SPX, right? If you were to play the SPY put options today, you would have made a lot less. Let me show you, let's say you played a 405 strike. Why would you have made a lot less? Because SPY only dropped 10 points, SPX dropped over 103 points. Also, SPY expiration was tomorrow. SPX expiration was today, right? So let's say you were to go far the money on SPY. Let's say you went with a 406 put strike, right? Say you went with a 406 put strike. These went from $1.23 to $5.75. That's amazing. That's fucking amazing. But guess what? SPX, those contracts were going from 20 cents at a similar strike all the way to $33. So you tell me, which ones would you rather be on in terms of playing these lottos, in terms of playing these same day expirations? So in terms of the SPX, my recommendation is if you have a smaller account, you need to focus on the same day expirations when the contracts are super cheap, when they're under a couple dollars, like that cheap, under at least $4, like super cheap, key resistance levels. I mean, look at this yesterday. We talked about the gap close reversal opportunity right here. It did the same thing again today. SPX rocketed up to fill the gap. SPX rocketed up to fill the gap, had its gap down, rocketed up to fill the gap, rocketed up to fill the gap, fills the gap, has a reversal, fills the gap, has a reversal, forms the lower highs, sells off, sells off. So I want you to use this information to your advantage, right? It gets a lot more advanced than this, and it's a lot more obvious in hindsight, but it is simple. This is fairly simple if you stick to it, if you stick with it. So obviously there's a lot more to talk about. It goes much more in depth of the strategy, but within these videos, I just want to share with you some tips, some tricks, help you along the way. And if you're taking notes, you're writing down this information, you're taking it all in, you're going to start to see that there's just so much more, and there's so many hidden gems within these videos. As you're going to see, there's going to be so much new things to discuss and to talk about. So moving forward in terms of my trading strategy, I've really been focused lately, and I've really been doing a lot better on trading the SPY. I've been improving a lot. Just have to work a little bit more on my entries and be more disciplined, but I have been trading the SPY a lot better than I have previously been this year. So moving forward, I'm going to be adding the SPX into my trading essential. And if you want to master these, you got to follow the VIX, the VIX, the VXX. You got to follow these, man. You got to study these. You got to follow these. They're going to help tell you in terms of how to determine the trend. But I want to give a big shout out where credit is due, because G-Roar within the chat aimed for the big win 2 days in a row, day trading, not swing trading. He absolutely nailed it, buying puts towards the previous closing price, and he held those for a very, very long time, making insane lucrative returns. So hats off to him. In terms of my trading lately has just been super quick scalps. I haven't been aiming for the bigger side of the move. I've actually been focused more on the call side, which has been making me not as good as I normally would be on the put side. I did have one good put option trade. I had a very tough morning. I had some 2 bad trades in the morning. Then I took a break, and then ever since I took that break, I was on fire with some scalps. I had a really good trade on the SPY. I bought SPY puts literally right here at 410.50s. I bought the puts, made 35%, sold way too soon. G-Roar ended up diamond handing it, aiming for the bigger win, and those printed like crazy, man. Crazy, much bigger return than what he made yesterday. So big shout out to him, man. It just depends on what your trading strategy is. If you're scalping and you're getting in, you're getting out, and you're cutting your losses quickly, then you could size in bigger and aim for less of a win. But you want to find a balance. You want to find a balance between a big win and a scalp. You want to find a middle ground, a good middle ground, right? If you're aiming for a big move like this and that's your goal, then you size in a lot less, right? But if you're aiming for just a quick scalp, then you could size in more, where you don't have to work as hard, but it relies more on timing, and then you got to get out super quick if it goes against you. I've mainly been scalping lately. I got to get back on the right track with aiming for more of the big wins. But I'm telling you, I'm going to be laser focused on full-time trading in terms of, in terms of 2 to 4 big moves a week, like bigger wins a week on the SPY, on the SPX, and then making some laser scalps. These scalping opportunities that I've had, they've been on fire. And if I alert these on a voice channel where it's 100% real time, no like 10-second delay on stream, depending on what your connection is and where you're located, it could be like a 10-second delay, or maybe even 20 to 30 seconds, and then you have to type out the alert too. That's a delay because I have to write it out, right? So 100% real time alerts. Best situation for that would be on the voice channel, where the voice is 100% real time, where you can literally make a 10, 20, 30% return within minutes on these scalping opportunities. I've been on fire with the scalps. So yeah, I'm going to work on both. I really just want to focus more on the put side because that's what I do best. I've had some good call opportunities, but if you trade both ways, especially on the same day, it can really complicate things. If you're doing too much, it's going to be hard to master one thing. If you're just scalping and you're trading both ways, it's going to be hard to master that big move for the day, right? You're complicating too many strategies, too many different things in one sense, right? I mean, it's possible if you can, shape your mind to be that way, but to do it in real time and stick to everything and adapt and change with all these different trading strategies and what you're supposed to be doing, it can get complicated if you're doing a lot. Like if you're playing calls, you're playing puts, you're scalping, and then there's a big move, and then you got to switch from the big move strategy to the small, like there's just so many different ways to play it. So in a sense, you want to figure out which one you want to focus on and kind of just stick to that. I've been complicating it a little bit as of lately, and it's been costing me in terms of these big wins. But yeah, with that being said, let's talk about tomorrow. Let's talk about tomorrow. What's the deal for tomorrow? So here's the deal. On the SPY, we finally got this bear trap. I mean, not this bear trap, this bull trap that finally occurred, where we broke out of this 8-day channel and SPY came back down to fill this gap at 405.31. Once it filled the gap, it cracked, which means it's going to try to fill the next gap at 397.37. So in terms of a key level that I need to bring awareness to is going to be right here. This is where the SPY is due for a bounce. 397.37. if you want to play calls, if you want to buy calls for a scalp, not for a swing trade, right? Your best bet is 397.37. This gap right here for a gap close reversal. Wait for bullish confirmation, play the calls. Use a tight stop. Use a stop at 396 to 396.30. Do not risk much. If it cracks this, it's going to try to go to 393. Do not risk much, right? If it can't work at the best level, then you have to get out. I attempted to scalp. So a scalp means I'm in and out very, very quickly. I attempted to scalp right here at 405.31. It cracked that. I got out for a 2% loss. In terms of my scalps and my wins, I had some very nice wins today that were 10%, 10%, 10%. Then I had a nice win on puts, 35%. My trade in the morning, though, it was not good. The morning really cost me in terms of some profits this week, but I did a good job scalping throughout there. Did a good job of cutting my losses, did a good job of maximizing my wins, except for that one put that I had at 410.50, but that was just meant to be like a scalp. I wasn't really trying to hold that. That was a nice 35% win. That could have been like a 300% win. But anyways, in terms of that, I want you to focus on 397 in terms of the call side, $397.37. You see a bounce, ride it back up to like $400. Now, let's discuss puts. We're looking very bearish. In terms of the daily chart, we triggered dark blue on the squeeze indicator, which is bearish. It triggered dark blue right here. When you see this dark blue, especially towards some resistance with this whole bull trap coming on, that's extremely bearish. This is a very bearish candlestick on the daily as well. And there's a gap to fill below 397.37, so that's where it obviously wants to go. With that being said, I do believe we're due for a bounce. I believe we're due for a bounce. I really don't want to chase a put. There's been two phenomenal, like life-changing opportunities for puts now, 2 days in a row at the previous closing price. I don't want to chase a put. SPY is due for a bounce. SPX is due for a bounce in terms of what's the level where I'd like to buy. I told you the best price is 397.37 on the SPY. In terms of SPX, just look at the gap on SPX. For SPX right here, 3978.73. And watch both and watch the VIX. They're going to help you so much determine reversals and stuff like that. See how it's triggered dark blue on the SPX as well, right? That's very bearish. So I'm waiting for the gap to fill below on the call side. Now, here's my theory. If we gap down tomorrow, my theory is we're going to pump back up to fill the gap and then most likely have a reversal. So what I'm hoping for is I'm hoping that we could see something like we saw today, like we saw for the past 2 days. This has been the trend. Where the SPY, where the SPX gaps down, and then as soon as the market opens, what does it do? It rips back up to fill the gap. It rips back up to fill the gap. It rips back up to fill the gap. What happens when the gap fills? It has a reversal. It has a reversal. So heading into tomorrow, the top opportunities that I would say would be to buy the calls if it gaps down towards open, but only at that best price, 397.37 for that gap close reversal. Ride it back up towards that gap fill level, which is 401.44. That's if it gaps down. If it opens up lower than 401.44, that means it gaps down. Best price to buy the calls, 397.37 at the morning. Ride it back up to fill the gap, lock in the profits on the rip. Best price to play the puts heading into tomorrow, $401.44 only if it gaps down. So for me to be extremely interested in trading this tomorrow, it pretty much has to gap down or it has to hit 397.37. So that's the game plan, keeping it very simple. Calls at 397.37 for an ideal call buying opportunity. I would prefer for it to gap down because then there's going to be a gap to fill above. And the trend on the SPY, on the SPX lately has been it rockets back up to fill the gap, and then it has a gap close reversal, which is going to be a put opportunity if it gaps down at 401.44. So basically, for me to be extremely interested in trading tomorrow, it has to gap down or it has to fill the gap at 397.37. But ideally, I want the gap down. I think it'll be a much better call opportunity if it gaps down, then fills the gap, versus it doesn't gap down, then fills the gap. I think we're much more likely to bounce if it gaps down because it's been ripping up to fill the gap. So the strategy is not as good and it's not as ideal if there's no gap down, because then it doesn't serve a purpose to fill that gap above like it has been doing for the past 2 days in a row. So pattern recognition, study the trend in terms of, oh, how does SPY react when it has this massive sell-off, when it forms this bearish candlestick here on the daily chart. I think it can potentially be something like this, where, you know, we kind of gap down, it fills the gap, and then it just kind of chops. Most likely something like that. Tomorrow's going to be an interesting day. Tomorrow's going to be pretty crazy. So we'll see. But that's the game plan. That's what I'm waiting for. You know, and you could do the same thing, like I said, with the SPX. So for SPX, 4017.82. That's the previous closing price. And then the gap fill right here is at $3,978.73, right? So that's the game plan. Keeping it very, very simple. So yeah, guys, my lens recently broke. I got a nice better lens coming in soon. So you know, the video, the camera, the web, you know, the video camera lens, the quality will be much better. Things will be back to normal soon. Also switching, you know, from PC to a Mac, so I got to adjust for that. I'm also working on moving. So I got a lot going on right now, and I recently had like a work vacation in New York. That's why I haven't been as active. But in terms of Trader Society and my group, I've been extremely active. I've been delivering. I've been posting, you know, my trades in real time. I've been helping assisting members. I've been doing all the live streams. I've been doing all my work over there in terms of the YouTube channel. I just haven't been as active because I have so much going on. But yeah, you can expect me to be. Things should be coming back to normal as per usual. Just really waiting for this new equipment and stuff to come in. It should come in by Monday. So yeah, I'll keep you guys up to date. If you do want to be a part of Trader Society, tomorrow should be a phenomenal day with Friday expirations. Like I said, I'm mainly trading the SPY and SPX as of now. Keep an eye on VERU. There's a gap to fill here. Make it or break it at 1357. It's going to be tough though. We'll see how it reacts to that level though. But in terms of stocks, really not seeing too much. Mainly focused on SPY and SPX. If you want to be a part of Trader Society, it's the first link down below in the description. Click that first link. You can join. As soon as you join, you get instant lifetime access to the program. You get to watch me trade live every single day at market open. You get access to the recordings of the live streams we do. You can ask me questions live on spot during the stream. Any question you have about trading, you can ask those questions within the chat room. You get access to the chat room. G-Roar within the chat. He's the lead trader who's mastered, you know, SPY, and now he's trading SPX as well. He's going to be doing a 1K to 100K challenge very, very soon. So I'm looking forward to seeing his results on that. His results have been absolutely amazing, man. He started with less than 100 grand this year, and he's flipped it into tens of millions. So it's just absolutely insane what you can do by mastering the SPY, by mastering the SPX, by scaling, by compounding your account. It's just insane what he has done, and it is inspiring. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to keep you updated within the chat. I'm telling you, we got a great team. We got some great members in there. We're absolutely crushing it, giving out great alerts, giving out great advice, teaching, showing the charts, stuff like that. It's a great community we have going. And if you do want to be a part of it, it's the first link down below in the description. All the information is explained there. I will see you guys tomorrow live at Market Open.